And
Okay, welcome everyone to our second PlayShop in the series of 3. Today is a focus on, like all of them, education reform, but this one in particular is for economic reform through education and how we can bring the dynamicism of education reform into our projects through the economy. And that can seem somewhat dry, but guarantee it's going to be fun because we are all involved in these economic systems, and part of what is driving us is that we have to live through a monetary means at this point because of the way that the systems are set up. So the importance of being able to recognize that money is a factor in the people that are coming to us, that we serve, and then also for our own sovereignty and survival, it's a very important aspect. So we can dive into, I'm going to share a verse that we love to say often, and it's from Rudolf Steiner, a verse for America. And take a deep breath. May our feelings penetrate into the center of our heart and seek in love to unite itself with the human beings seeking the same goal, with the spirit beings who, bearing grace, strengthening us from realms of light and illuminating our love, are gazing down upon our earnest, heartfelt striving. And with that, I would love to invite you all to share a bit about yourself. I know Gila mentioned that she's still at work, so won't be able to maybe speak it, but she could possibly type it, and introduce ourselves as well. So, Amber, would you like to begin?
oh, I would love to. It's so nice to have you both, Narda and Hila, on the call. It's so nice to connect with you. I'm Amber. I'm here in the Pacific Northwest. I grew up here and went to Alaska for 13 years and then came back. And before I came back, I had done some inner growth, and I worked through some blocks energetically within myself. And I started channel writing, and I got some very specific instructions that led me down the path I'm now on. I had one of the first ones was to create a website, actually. And then a year later, I got this download for a business plan for Alighten. And a huge aspect of that is that we can create education centers or schools and have them be networks for community to come together and skill sharing. That a lot of people have skills, but they're not able to share them in our traditional school system because they would have to have so many hours of schooling and have to be basically indoctrinated by the system in order to be in the system and share their skills with the younger ones. So that was one of the aspects of it. But I didn't quite know how it would all come together, and I put it out there into the universe and said, I'm willing to do this. And Lee and I met, and Suzanne and I met, and the gears just started turning, and Suzanne's brilliance of the course came to her also, and the outline of it can also be applied to other things in our life. So it's very dynamic. And that's who I am and what I do. I also help set up private member associations and ministries. And then I also have a little baby girl. She's 4 months, 4.5, and 2 boys who are 12 and 14, or 12 and 15. He just had his birthday. So I'm doing the teen boy thing and the little baby girl. She comes to the meetings a lot.
We might see her in a couple minutes. I'm Lee. I'm masquerading as Suzanne today and Lee. I'm holding both of the hats at the moment, but I started in education when I was very young. I taught outdoor education and sports when starting from the time I was 13 years old. And so I actually was the director of a ski and snowboard school in high school and through my first years in college. And I have been passionate about learning and teaching. And when in college, I studied epistemology and philosophy, among other things, but that ended up being the thing that was my main focus. Understanding how we know what we know, why we think the way that we do, and the different systems of thought that go into creating education, and what are the different practical applications of that. And then throughout my early 20s and into my 30s, I learned about permaculture and indigenous knowledge-based education systems and systems thinking in general, and got very involved in that and teaching that as well. And then became a doula because I was a parent, and that really opened my eyes about the importance of interpersonal work in being able to create change within systems, and just the impact that trauma has on people's decision making and also their personal empowerment. And that, when my kids got to be of an age where they could go to school, I decided to open up my own alternative learning center, alternative rebel uh, place to land for a lot of people in my community. It was a rural community and based on a farm. And that became somewhat of a community center for people in my uh, in the city that I was in, to connect with mentors. And I was basically writing, I had never seen or heard of anything like I was doing. And it was really from my own impulse to provide an education system that I wish that I had had when I was a child. And something that was outdoor, Waldorf and Montessori kind of meshed together, all these different philosophies and epistemologies, and how did they work together to really work with the individual development of a child, and also to change systems while doing so, and economic systems and education systems and cultural systems. And that ended up going really well. And we served people from birth until 18 years old, and had mentors from the community that were lifelong learners that became involved and taught with all different kinds of things like gymnastics and uh, and art and woodworking and business. We had someone who has a coffee roasters, and they employed some of our older kids on a stipend basis. And so there's a lot of development that happened there, but I also learned a lot about how difficult it is to work within the system that is really intent on keeping people in it, and how the different intersections of economy really stressed everyone in the system. And how do you craft something? Hi, Rosie. Welcome. We're just doing introductions right now, and we're going around and asking everyone to introduce themselves and what their interest is in this topic. So basically, I created this alternative school that challenged a lot of things that were happening in the community, and learned a lot about interpersonal relationships and how important it is to have good protections and good governance. That was one of the things that I really learned, is that I had this very idealistic thinking going in and didn't realize, because of my hubris at the time and inexperience, how challenging this kind of freedom-based education can be within a community and what it takes to have sustainability in the finances and in the governance structure, so that when you had conflicts arise within the community that you're in, that you can weather those storms, that you have a solid ship. So that's when I met Amber, and then after that Suzanne, realized that this is the team that I didn't have before, that I really, really needed. I needed a team that I could trust, that we built a very solid governance system between us so that we could, when one of us, because I'm a single parent, I have 3 teenagers now, when one of us falters because of the systems that we're involved in, money, court systems, the all different kinds of things that can happen, healthcare systems, and that we have to keep on interacting with because it's the nature of the culture. How do you create resilience within your team that will sustain it when someone is having something happen that will take them away? And it's something that is really important and one of the foundations of being able to have a sustainable initiative. So Nicole, welcome. We are just getting started giving introductions about who we are and what our interests are in this subject. So, and I'll open it up to anyone else who wants to share about themselves a little bit more deeply and what interests they have in this topic.
Okay. My name is Narda Narvaez, and guess go way back to I graduated as a pre-med and always wanted to be a doctor, but saw that they gave drugs, and so decided not to. And at that point, married and had 2 children. So my children are now 35 or so, and I have 3 grandchildren at this point. But way back then, my ex-husband is a tropical ecologist, so we went to live in the Amazon rainforest, and that changed my worldview of what healing was, working with the shamans and all that. So I decided to embark on what can but I still want to work within the Western medical model and really work with sick people. Like I really want to be involved with real cases. I felt like I didn't want to be just, I felt that my path was to get immersed in that and then branch out to the natural. But besides getting the first training in shamanism and traditional medicine in the Amazon, then I came back and did a New York University physical therapy degree, and was working in nursing homes, hospitals, and all that while starting to learn natural medicine. But having that Amazonian worldview of knowing that our civilization here is kind of needs an upgrade in the natural sense, I was like, how can we change this in a more in a real sense? I was always looking to see what's the line between what we do day to day and how we're creating reality, and how we can change society. So how to explain now? Oh, sorry, I'm gonna have some sounds here coming in. So in my physical therapy work, I worked in schools for about 10 years of the 30 years almost that I was doing physical therapy. About 10 years of that it was within schools, and just saw that we need to change things from that point on, and so when the pandemic came, and I definitely could not work in those environments anymore. I had to totally just disavow the whole system. Is when I came into care and everything that back then Life Force and everything that they were doing, and started to plan with Monica, you know, on creating a new educational system. And my part, I always, you know, there to support things, but my vision is always being the health aspect of the education. How are we gonna, you know, bring health from the beginning and change the world, you know? So so that's my focus. And uh, so how can I say, what's happened since is, I've not been attending any of the care or anything since they were so rude to us in Monica. And so we found that there's other funding possibilities, and now I've been working to reestablish these kinds of ideas of projects and creating these schools. And I still have the Africa education that we've been, you know, very dedicated to for about 3 years. We had Sunday meetings, always ongoing. So we have a whole Africa education, about 300 member contingency that really are looking for how we can help them also create their schools. So I have a real tie to them, and in helping them, you know, think about their upcoming projects and how they might be developing things. So I'm full of all kinds of ideas of how we can work internationally. I've also was working a lot with Latin Americans, and look forward to creating a better future with all the projects that I know are going to be coming up and collaborating. And that, yeah, basically. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's amazing. That's the kind of work that we're hoping to spread all over, right? Like, and collaborating and sharing the ideas that we have and the things that are working and the things that aren't, as everything is changing. Oh. So is there anyone else who would like to share about their journey to
If not, I can go into
You
the
wanna s-
slides as well.
Yeah, sure. And I'm Suzanne just mentioned that she can hop on, but since I'm her, I'm going to let her know that she can jump on as a guest. So if you wanted to start the slide, Amber,
Yeah, sure. I'll start at the first slide again, and then I will read the next one, and then we'll go into dialogue about it. So the topic is education reform. The focus is, of course, education reform, the status of our economic system, how we are reforming the system while working in it. So the status of the economic system roots in the industrial model. So we can go through some references and examples about the purpose of the fiat-based banking model of the Federal Reserve and how we're all tied in it. And should I
So
read the points or stop?
I can talk about that right now.
Okay, let's do
So
it.
some people might not be aware, but the Federal Reserve, we used to be at a gold standard in terms of the amount of money that is in our economy is based on actual material gold. And that all changed in 1933 when the fiat model was started. So it created sorry, my dog. It created a total shift in what money actually means and the focus of being able to have things be real and actually based in the physical reality. And it became so that there was imaginary money, potential money that would be traded. And that's it. You can see how the difference between the economy now, the idea of it was to stabilize that there wouldn't be these big booms and busts, right? That it would be, companies would be able to get capital, and they would, it was, but it's really in the corporate interests at the time. And that's what the large bankers got together and were like, this is what we need to do. This will solve everything. But it was actually really in their interest, because up until that point, there had been industrialization and the idea of creating this whole system, including the education system, to create good workers, to create good repetitive industrial models that were not based on the soul of the individual, but based on the interests of certain people in power, primarily capitalists and those working to create large industrial models all over the world. And that was a change that happened starting in the 1600s, but that was just the initiation of it, with like Hudson Bay Company and things like that, these large multinational national organizations that became corporations. And over time, that has gotten to the point where now our money is based on nothing that's that's real. We're trading things based on the hope that we will continue to have exponential growth that will never end. And if we know anything about nature, that doesn't exist in nature. Nature is cyclical, and nature has rises and falls, and it's appropriate for growth structures, for it to be for there to be initiation, a growth phase, a die-off phase, and a resting phase of natural cycles. And so the fiat system is based on a linear growth cycle that we are seeing the ramifications of now. More and more extraction, more and more industrialization, and less focus on what it is actually doing to our bodies and our spirits by being humans wanting to participate in that, and being told that that's something that we need to be doing, this hyper productivity model that is also in our education system. So they're tied together, because the education system itself is formatted to serve the economic system that we have. And by reforming the education system, we can reform the economic system, because we're seeing it now when the pandemic happened and there was so much slowdown, right? There was productivity from the marketplace got brought into homes, and people were like, oh, I don't need to maybe necessarily be working 8 to 12 hours a day, because to just be able to make enough money so I can go to a job that I can then pay for, have somebody watch my kids. And I think we probably understand, I'm assuming, because many of you have established your own initiatives or are participating in alternative kind of models, so you understand that that's a broken system. But there's so many people that they didn't understand that they were in this hamster wheel, and that the pandemic really opened people's eyes of being like, oh, maybe there's a different way to exist. And maybe a lot of the symptoms that I'm having of stress and anxiety and depression and all of that is not actually me, that it's not my failure because I'm not able to maintain this linear growth cycle, but it's that the system is broken. And that's what we're seeing now, is all these people being like, I don't want to work like that. I don't want to contribute 50 to 80% of my income to maintaining so that I can continue to keep my job. And then we're seeing the return be less and less and less. So if you wanted to pop up the slides, Amber, because I think I went to the second point, but I want to make sure. The 3 Ps. So we, with our Launch Your Learning Center initiative, we have identified these 3 processes of learning that are really fundamental to be able to that we practice, as well as practicing with the children that we participate with. So everything that we do in this model is to have that we do it as well as the children. It's as below, above as below. So everything that we advocate for using is also something that we practice. So the 3 P's are project-based, play-based, and place-based. So those 3 circles of awareness and initiative are what we frame what we're doing. So play is a way to, it's a mindset, and it's one of the ways that, or the way that has been promoted to be how we learn. Children learn through play naturally, and they are initiated into play naturally. So they don't need to have anyone say, okay, you need to do this and this and this. They automatically know how to play. And it's up to us as adults to facilitate their ability to play. So part of the playing is having a curiosity. There's energetics around it. It's a mindset of, and a heart focus of, I am here to explore. I am here to engage with the materials that I have, and I don't know what the outcome is. I don't know. I'm not trying for a goal. I'm trying for an experiential process. And so you're working with the other people that you're around, and we as an adults have learned and been trained and conditioned that play is something we do outside of work. Play is something that we do outside of the seriousness of being an adult. And one of the aspects of change making is being able to initiate that sensation within ourselves. So like, this is a heavy subject, right? Economy, the history, and all of that. And it's also kind of goofy. Like, this is a thing that we've all experienced, that we all have these layers of understanding, and it's curious to see, well, why have we gotten here? For me, this is what I approach it as, like, why have we gotten here? What's the purpose? I don't really like to think of like there's this grand overlord, like, conspiracy theory. More of that, we went down this path as humans to try specialization and industrialization. We did that. Now we're experiencing the effects. We're having super high anxiety rates. We're having super high depression rates. We're having people on psychotropic drugs. We are being disconnected from our kids, and it makes us vulnerable to a lot of predatory energies in the marketplace. So it's not working, but it's not something that we have. It's an opportunity, right, to play with this different kind of economic system, and we can do research and find different aspects of that we find curious. So going with our own heart and mind about what it is that we can explore. So that's one. The play aspect is really important. The other P is place. Is really grounding into where you are, who is around you, this is what we do also with children, of how are we exploring our different resources that we have around us. Resources being things like the humans that we come in contact with every single day, the land that we live on, the ecosystem that is interacting with us and feeding us and contributing to us, and how can we play in that system in a way that is honoring the cycles of that system. Now, that being said, we're seeing that some people are being part of the overculture. And oh yes, Gila, yeah, we will email the recording. We will get it out to you after that. Yes, thank you for coming.
Bye, Gila.
Appreciate
I'm
it.
glad you came.
So it's really important. So that aspect of orienting ourselves to the place that we are, the humans that are around us, and the land that we are sharing experience with. And so that framing, when we're doing economic decisions, is what will bring the economy back to us. So a lot of the things that we participate in right now are things that are moving money outside of our localization. And if we can check ourselves with curiosity and play, like, oh, okay, so I am paying this person, or I'm using a system that's not even a human. I'm just using a corporation to supply something. Is there an alternative that I can use that's actually human based, that's relationship based? Because that's really what land based is, place based, is that you're thinking about the relationships that you have between yourself and the living beings around you, and really orienting yourself to that. And it's amazing when you have your mindset to that realm, how much opportunity and resources happen. And it because you're moving into a natural cycle. We've always been meant to be place-based before industrialization, and before we had these very extractive economies. Everything that you had was based on where you were. And so it's a natural, innate part of our humanness. And if we can start orienting towards that verse, and that's why we talk about, finding mentors that are nearby, finding people who have been in your place or in the place of the people that you're serving, say that you're helping other people start initiatives, that they are looking to resource within them, and that doubles your return or more exponentially, because you are feeding into the people that are in contact with you all the time. You're building relationships, and then you start understanding that you maybe have more resources that you can provide for those people than you thought. And then you see yourself as more of than what you thought that you could have, more resources than you knew that you had. Because this is a different mindset of going from, oh, I need to seek out Amazon, I need to seek out different kinds of technologies. Like, that's one thing that we've seen a lot in people trying to start initiatives, thinking that they need to have all these different systems in place and they need to have all this infrastructure, when it's kind of it's an overkill for what it is that they actually need in the beginning. And thinking that they have to have something perfect or exact for it to meet the needs of the people that they're serving. Then the third one is project. So when you're doing projects, you're thinking about, with children, right? They initiate something maybe that they see that they want to do in whatever classroom setting that you're doing, and they can be very creative in what they want to do. Let's say, for example, that they want to build a pond. And so you're like, okay, that's a pond, a thing that we can initiate. And then you can go down the list of things that you need, the resources you need. And then it goes back to the play-based and place-based, in where are the resources, how can we gather them together, and how can we structure it so that it's fun, that it's something that we're going to continue to want to do, rather than it to be some kind of drudgery and end goal that maybe we don't actually make a pond. Maybe we just make a hole in the ground that lasts for a couple of days, which is fine. You learn about yourself and the people that you're in relationship with, and you can create a whole environment of understanding and learning from that process itself. And so when you have a project, that you can structure it so that it's feeding those other two circles as well. Because it can easily, when you have a project, you start going into the linear mindset of it needs to have, right? You could say, I need to have a 30-foot pond that's like 4 feet deep, and then it has to have a waterfall and a blah, 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 but maybe you don't have the resources to do that. So maybe it just has a hose that comes in, and then you have a little stream that goes out into a flower bed, right? And then it runs once in a while. Like those are the kinds of thinking, is that when you're looking at it in a resources-based, land-based, or place-based thing, is that we don't need to overexert and over extract our resources for this project. And that's what, in the larger picture about what we're doing in Launch Your Learning Center, is practicality, and those 3 P's are the priority. So place, project, and play. And if it starts feeling like it's not meeting one of those needs, then it's a good check valve to know that you're going into the old model, the old economic system of extraction, of overburdening yourself, so that you are needing to exert yourself to an extent that is not sustainable. So economy, we think of it as money, and it's human capital. It's actual energetic movement. And so it's been siphoned off in this way to serve corporations. That has removed it from the gold standard. And what that actually means is it's removed it from material reality. So it's extracting energy from humans to sustain a model that is not natural. And how we reset it is by orienting ourselves again to what is actually sustainable for the body and actually sustainable for the place that we're in. And if it feels like play, then it's on. But if it doesn't feel like play, there's something else that's being fed. So.
Wow, putting it like that, like human capital. Okay. That makes sense. It does.
Yeah.
It's not about money. It's not about material value. It's about our human energy.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is the last slide we just did. Let's go on to the next one. Do you want your child and legacy to participate in this model and become a debt slave in the matrix?
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So
yeah,
the energy of the because that's what the fiat model created, is that you're bargaining off the future. You're saying, I'm taking on this debt. So it's taking it away from the gold standard. You're taking on this debt and saying, at some point, my human capital will make up that debt. And that's what the government did to us, and then used it to trade with other companies, other countries. And that's what we're feeling. That's the heaviness that we're feeling, is like our productivity is paying a debt that we never agreed to. And so taking it back and saying, no, it's going to feed my actual people around me, and I'm no longer going to give it to corporations. But it's a slow process. That's what I'm saying, is that it's weaning off something that is naturally very difficult, because it's cheating. It really is. It's bargaining off of our grandchildren that that we have the ease we have now. That isn't always going to be the case, but that's really what the model does, is it's taking, and we're seeing it now, right? We're seeing the structures like Social Security and all of that, and pensions and all of that falling apart. It was promises made based on, oh, we're going to pay you this, but it's actually not what you're worth, because we're promising you this thing in the future. And that's then this is the Great Reset.
All right, I'm gonna read this right here and then switch it to the next slide. We have embodied our educational experiences and larger cultural narratives in our culture within systems that serve closed loops of relating and creating. It's not a personal failure that the education system is not working for you your family, or your community. Our anxiety, depression, and mental health crisis situation is not inherent, it is a product of the system we live in. What can you do about it? And we already talked about the 3P, how narratives and storytelling throughout 3P based learning support meaning making and code breaking and conflict within system reform.
So the stories that I'm telling you right now, the stories that our grandparents can tell us about how they went through the Great Depression, how the boom bust of the different wars that have happened and the impact that has had on personal relationships and people, all of those stories are really important. We can use stories to prop up the system, but we can also use stories to show how the system has broken a lot of the relationships that we have had, and people have been able to not get out of the system, basically, and the impacts that it has. And so storytelling is one of the big threads that go through all the 3Ps of saying, oh, this is the impact that it has had. And once we can take on the idea that we are not personally responsible for the impact the system has had on our families and our health, then we can create a new story, not based on that we're victims of the system. It's not about being victims, but that we are creators in the system. That once we know what has happened and once we know what we've been through, we can tell the story of people even further back who survived and thrived and made different systems. And there are systems all over the world where people have taken back their power from large systems of government and re-indigenized themselves so that they are having more village-based education systems. And it's not something that is so foreign to us. So there are lots, and we just have to seek them out and share them with one another, which is one of the things that we do, like on the link calls and things like that, is really diving deep into the process of storytelling and understanding the things that we've been through. And that's how we tell the codes to break. Because really, if you think about, we've been given codes to perpetuate with one another, these algorithms of relating and understanding. And it doesn't mean that that's the way it has to be. We just have to seek out different ways of breaking those codes. And it's challenging, though, I will say, in working with people in the environment that I did. Yes, the gifting economy can decentralized open source ways. Exactly. So that's when I say about closed loop systems and open loop systems. So closed loop are self-perpetuating, just the same narrative over and over and over again. And open loop is recognizing that there are multiple ways of viewing the world and multiple ways of doing things, and that the things that have come before are not necessarily the way that it's going to always be. And gifting economy, it's also one of the things that's really powerful is recognizing that the impact of the system is different onto different strata. So depending on your ancestral lineage and the privileges that you've been handed, there are certain tiers that we have to be able to move within the system. And some people just don't have that because they haven't been exposed to the things that we're talking about. They just don't know. They think that it's still within them, that it's their fault. And so being able to relate and price tiers in your initiative is really important, and to recognize and give a voice to saying, oh, have you had ACEs and intergenerational trauma happen in your family? Are you from a place where you don't have resources beyond your monthly income? Well, here's the tier that you will be at, right? And then people who, let's say they're very comfortable in their, and this is just the pricing structure, and we go into this a lot deeper when we're in the Launch Your Learning Center course, but you can have another structure where you're actually paying for people beyond what is your basically your provision. And bye, Gila. Thank you. So nice to see your face. Thank you. So the next level, would you like to say something before you go? Oh,
Just everything you were speaking about resonated so much, and it's so wonderful to listen to you and to be here with heart-centered and like-minded people. It's reassuring and inspiring and empowering. So looking forward for more. I just have to go. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
oh, thank you so much for coming.
Mhm.
Really appreciate your time, and we'll send you the recording.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, the just being able to, oh, remind me of what I was saying, Amber. Do you remember?
You were talking about system change and how it's not us that
Code
is.
breaking. Yeah. Okay, so that's one of the things. Oh, I was talking about the tiers. Yeah, now I remember. Okay, so the tiers are that there's an upper tier where you can actually give back and say, okay, I've been given privileged, yeah, giving beyond your provision. That I want to give because I understand how I've been on the upper hand of this imbalanced system. And so here I am giving back and modeling that too. So when you have that kind of pricing structure, you're modeling it for the people who aren't in that position and saying, oh, I want to get to that position someday where that I can be in a place where I'm so comfortable with what I have that I can, and it's just the initiation of the abundance that I am being provided for by my community because other people are seeing my need, and it's not needing to like prove your income. It's totally conditional on your own heart and where you're at, and giving people that choice to initiate their own, to provide for themselves and understand that where they're at in the system is not their fault. And the merit-based ideology that we've been in, it's really hard. There's a shame and a self-incrimination that ends up coming out as lashing out at others and lashing out at systems that are changing things. And this is what I experienced in my school, is that I was providing this kind of freedom and like an uncoupling from a needing to be part of the system. And that was really, really challenging for people in the community to be like, oh, you don't need the school system? Like, how can you not need it? It's like so much a part of everything that we do. And it's like, well, it is a part of an old way of doing things. And so, but that's through storytelling and saying, one of the big stories that I told is that I'm helping all of us to move in a different direction so that we're all provided for, because we're all being negatively impacted by this system. And so that's something that we go into in the course too. So I'm recognizing that we've got 2 minutes. So I wanted to give I know some people came in a little later, and we have until we have more time if anybody would like to can stay later, or if you would like to make a comment now and have to go, then you're welcome to. Is there anybody that has a hard line at 6 o'clock that they need to leave? No. Okay, great. So Amber, you want to bring up the slide again?
Yes, I can bring up this. Do you want the same slide as before?
No,
or the next one?
Over,
Okay.
yeah.
So this is the next one, is a reference to Bill Mollison's work about hyper-local community systems as a counterforce, social environmental permaculture. You can find this application in our course, as well as I forgot what this stands for, Lee, help me out.
Family
Council workshops, of course.
So Bill Mollison was a guy from Australia. Actually, I think Tasmania, I think is his original place that he's from. And he coined the term permaculture. It's actually an indigenous knowledge-based care system for being a part of on the land, and it's not, I mean, Bill, he was a white guy that was like, hey, this looks cool, I'm gonna categorize and do all these things, and that's how I came to learn about it. But he really pushed this narrative against traditional agricultural systems, right? So permaculture is permanent agriculture is the term, but it's actually more about witnessing and seeing what is present, and then working with the systems that are present and the inputs and outputs of the system. So in very realistic terms, like a chicken, what does the chicken eat, and what does it waste does it produce, and what does it feed, and where does it need to be so that it optimizes its own life experience, so its happiness and its quality of life, as well as the humans that caregive for it. So that's kind of a simplistic idea of what permaculture is about, but it's very, very, it can be very dense. Anyway, we can think about that as in the social permaculture way of different elements and resources in the system, and this is what I was referencing before, and where they fit and where they are most optimized for their own growth and development, and so that their waste, if you think about waste, the things that are off products of a productive cycle, where they are to be utilized. So basically it's saying that there's nothing can be thrown away. Everything is valuable, everything is a resource, and it's framing your mind in that way of looking at even challenges that happen when you're dealing with these economic systems, that thinking of it as opportunities and resources for learning, for resources for exploration, and rather than thinking of it like, okay, for example, say you're renting a place for the initiative that you have, and suddenly they say you were raising rent, doubling it, which happens. So you can look at that and say, we got to scramble and get all this money together. Or you could think of it in a way of, well, I can connect more people to what we're doing and do more outreach and explain what it is that we have going on. And maybe you can find a better place than the place that you're at. So it's framing your thinking in a way that, okay, this is either I have to make more money and I have to charge more, or I have to reassess the place that I am. And then maybe also you could say to the person, well, your landlord, the other alternative would be, what is it that you are needing? Why are you increasing this rent? And then maybe you'll understand, oh, their mortgage rates just went up, and so that they have to do that. And then you can come together as a community and say, okay, how can we problem solve this together? Because we all have this common goal of having the community thrive through our education program. And it changes the dynamic of what it is that the economic pressure that we have from the outside does within the system. So just thinking about it in a little different way, rather than automatically thinking that you have to do whatever the economy system is asking you to do. Does anybody have any questions about that? Does anybody have experience with permaculture, that idea? It's okay, you don't have to say anything, but you want to go to the next slide, Amber?
Yeah, I can. I've studied it a little bit. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, Rosie
Yeah.
says she's interested in learning about it.
When we send out the recording of this, and we'll send a bunch of links that are references to the things that I've talked about, so you can do more research and more
Okay.
play.
We have somebody in the waiting room.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, let them in. It might be Suzanne.
It said Ted with some numbers, so we'll see.
Oh,
Okay, I'm gonna share this last slide, which is
Okay.
an exercise that Suzanne learned in her teacher's training.
okay, just a sec. Hi, Ted.
Hi,
Welcome. How did you find us?
uh, my daughter Suzanne.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
So this is all new to me, and she sent me an email to try this out.
Okay, welcome. Well, we're almost done, but we can send you a recording of it so that you can experience the whole thing. So, welcome. I'm glad you're here.
Well, yeah, this is exciting.
Yeah. So, as a closing, we would love it as part of the Launch Your Learning Center course. What we do is encourage a lot of reflection. So a big part of what we do, and that we the proponent that we the idea that we oh, I'm sorry. The idea that we perpetuate is that reflection is a huge part of learning, and being able to sit with and percolate through the things that you've heard and the thoughts that you've had. It's really important to let it sit overnight, go into dream time, and let your subconscious kind of work over all the ideas. And then in the morning, you can write down what you remember, things that really stood out to you, questions that you have. And we would love for you to come to the next webinar, which is this Friday at 5, same time, and we can share some of those things if you'd like. But it also can be just for your own personal development and for your own personal understanding. It just helps ground everything into your ecosystem, and so that you can understand it better. Okay, do you want to go to the next slide, Amber?
That's the last one, actually.
Oh, that's the last one.
That's
Okay, I thought we
it.
had a thank you. All right, so there we are. That is our presentation for today. Thanks for playing with us and all these ideas. And I hope that it gave you some inspiration for your own initiatives, and if also, we'd love to see you again on Friday, same place, same Zoom room, same time. And we'll be going into economic reform and ensoulment. So that's a fun topic. We'll go and hopefully express some things that you've maybe never heard before about education.
Will likely be.
What's that?
That will likely be. This is
Yeah.
a new experience.
Yes. Exciting. So we have all of your you will get a follow-up email with the recording, and if you have any feedback, the other thing that we do in the Launch Your Learning Center course, it's a huge part, is giving meeting reflection and feedback. This cycle that we're doing, this auditors mentors circle, is for us to refine our delivery and refine our design of the course so that we can really maximize its benefit to people. And that's one of the reasons why you all are here, is that especially people who have experience within the education system, we really want to get good, solid, critical feedback about what we're delivering and how it's landing. So we'd love to hear that now. If you'd like to share any reflections, that would be great. But if not, you can send us an email.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I have my own reflection. I feel like I have a tendency to get somewhat off-road on some topics because I get so excited about it. And I love to share about these things. Oh, there she is. She made it. Hi, Gabrielle. She's our angel in residence. So, yes, my reflection is that sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming to people with the things that I can convey, 'cause it can be very complex. And I'm trying to work on simplifying and getting very factual and practical about how I deliver some of my topics. So
I thought it was great. I even took notes on some topics because I was going with you along the way and making more connections between them. Well, Narda, it was great that you came. I'm really interested. I know you just gave a really brief surface overview of what all you're working on. I'm really curious to talk with you again sometime.
Yes, thank you. And I really appreciate your talk today. Yeah, got a lot of things popping around
Working.
my head. Yeah. Oh my gosh, for sure.
Right.
Working out of, what our financial system has kind of created in our lives, and how, definitely the path of these last few years has been in how to start to establish these new systems that are going to carry us forward into more self-sustaining and supportive and creative society that we all want, right? So it's a key concept, of why everything is happening now. So thank you.
100%. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the choices that we make, that's one of the things that's so important about this is how we structure these kinds of initiatives. We can get sucked right back into the system, or we can make different choices. And part of it is being in a community, a thought community that is saying, okay, we're going to try something different. And we're going to tell these stories. I mean, the storytelling is really important about how other things have been successful and how it can work differently. And that's one of the powerful things about where we are at in the world right now. And I just want to leave us on that inspiration, is that we're more connected now than we've ever been to diversity of thought. And so, and it's democratized, like everyone has access to it now. So that's part of the shifting that we're feeling, is that everybody's really waking up at these different levels of the impact that the unconsciousness has made on us. And so the more that we can tell these stories about why it is this way, and the more we can unburden each other from saying it's not our own personal failure that you are in debt, that you haven't gotten as much money as you need to survive. Like, it's not your fault. It really is not. It's not. It's a system that was not built for our humanness. And we've learned it now, that they figured it out. They thought that it might be, and now we figured out it's not working. So we have different ways. There are different ways of creating abundance, and it's not just thinking it. So it's actually putting it into structures within our initiatives. And that's the difference. And that's what we teach throughout the Launch Your Learning Center, is that it's in every decision that you make about the economics, which is the energy that is moving through your initiative. And it's not just about wishing and dreaming and manifesting. That's one element of it, but your manifestation can get hijacked, right, by delusions of the system. So we'll leave you on that. Thank you, Rosie, for that. I'm so glad that you joined us. And you too, Nicole. And if you don't have anything that you are pressing or that you want to say, then we'll just leave. I'm gonna say the verse once again to close our circle, and we'll wish you a wonderful Wednesday and see you again on Friday, hopefully. May our feelings penetrate into the center of our heart and seek in love to unite itself with the human beings seeking the same goal, with the spirit beings who, bearing grace, strengthening us from realms of light and illuminating our love, are gazing down upon our earnest, heartfelt striving. I so appreciate you all and what you're doing in the world.